What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. New week, new beginnings, new starts, fresh start. Forget last week, forget the week before. We're back with another transfer view, and it's game day, it's match day as well. Of course, it's the FA Cup third round for Manchester United today. A trip to Wigan, a trip to the DW Stadium. The last game before we find out. We're going to find out, actually, I think, the draw before kickoff this evening as well. But it is match day. It's game day. How is everybody feeling? Are we feeling good? Are we feeling optimistic? Are we feeling a sense of dread, even though it's Wigan, League One Wigan? How's everybody doing? How is everybody doing when it comes to the weather as well? It's freezing. It's really cold, but I like it this time of year. I like the cold weather. I like it just makes getting up very difficult in the morning, doesn't it? Because you sort of wrap up in bed and you go, oh, it's lovely and cold, and you realise, actually, I've got to get out of bed. I've got to get out of this duvet, and now I've got to do what needs to be done with the working day. So, as always, let me know where you're watching from, and on top of that, let me know what the weather's like as well, where you are. It might be actually really warm. You know, the UV community certainly is global. So, good morning. Everyone's got their coffees in, or doing what they're doing in the morning. Some are in the gym, some are at work, some are commuting, some are maybe having a day off. Maybe some people are like, nah, I do shift work. I don't start till later on in the day. It's lovely stuff anyway. So hope everybody's doing good. I'll have a look in the chat already. Got Mike says, good morning, Owen. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well, Mike. What else are people saying here at the moment? Ninth Earth says, morning. All Elite says, FA Cup success starts tonight. Abby says, it's cold, Owen. It is cold, but tremendous. I love it. George says, freezing over here in the Netherlands, but I don't mind it really. Always sit inside every day, all day. Wow, there you go. Roger says, snow. Snow where Roger is at the moment. There was some snow warning, so if you are out in the snow today, be careful and all that kind of stuff. Kristen says, just finished the gym. We've got love from South Africa. Quite warm this side of the world. Let's go Reds as well. Atlanta, cold as F here as well. So, hey, the UV community, it's global. It's global. And the weather view, I'm bringing the weather view back. Old school days used to always be, where are you and where's the weather as well. Tabaslo there says as well, big up, hope you're all fine. 25 minus from Oslo. That's Peter says morning, -5 in the Czech Republic as well. Oh, look at that. Look at that. I love that kind of stuff. Anyway, there's plenty to get into this morning. There's plenty to discuss. We're going to be talking a little bit about Erik ten Hag's comments about sort of player pressure and why it may not work out for certain players at Manchester United. Specifically, he was asked about Donny van de Beek, but he was kind of asked why certain players come to United, it doesn't work out, and if that would possibly put off players from joining Manchester United in the future. So Ten Hag been talking a bit about that, and I guess it's just a good conversation to have just about pressure in general. Erik ten Hag is not immune to pressure, certainly either. So we chat about that. Got the latest details and updates when it comes to Jadon Sancho, his loan to Borussia Dortmund. One would expect to be confirmed. Here we go, at least this week. So we got some extra details on that. Fabrizio Romano has been talking this morning. Interestingly, Erik ten Hag was asked about Bayern Dia in the second half of his press conference. We'll chat a bit about that and how Ten Hag has insisted they're very happy with their goalkeeping group, despite the fact that they're bending over backwards to make sure that Andre Onana can play against Spurs next weekend or this coming weekend, whenever it is. An update on Casemiro and Lisandro Martinez. Could we expect them to be back possibly for the Spurs game, or is it going to be a little bit longer than that? Ten Hag's been chatting about that too, and the latest news when it comes to Anthony Martial as well. So as I mentioned, plenty to get into this morning. So if you haven't already, click the like button, be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner, click the notification bell, you'll be notified when we go live later on this evening for the match view. It's going to be a special Trinity match view. It's going to be Flex, KG and myself. Yes, it could be crazy doing the FA Cup third round game. As you can see on the screen right there, we're going to be live 7:45. That's 30 minutes before kickoff later on this evening. So click those notification bells. You'll be notified when we go live. Let's start off talking about Erik ten Hag's comments about player pressure. This is quite interesting, actually. So, obviously, the second half of the press conference, Erik ten Hag's press conference for the game against Wigan in the FA Cup came out late last night. And Erik ten Hag was asked if there are concerns about players avoiding joining Manchester United because of how careers such as Donny van de Beek have gone. Of course, Van de Beek's just joined Frankfurt on loan. I think there's an option clause, isn't there, as well? And the question was put to him basically, given how Donny, when we signed him, huge reputation, or certainly a rising reputation in Europe. One of the sort of better young players, just missed out on a move to Real Madrid because of the pandemic. And then fast forward 3 or 4 years later, he's getting a loan move to Frankfurt. He's barely played any games for Manchester United. It just hasn't worked out, has it? So Ten Hag was asked, could that possibly affect certain players from avoiding joining Manchester United in the future? And Ten Hag had the following to say. He said, quote, "I can tell you one thing, and that is that the Premier League is tough, and at Manchester United, it is tough to play here because in every other team, it is easier to play there because there is less pressure." He continued by saying, "It is so high and you have to deal with that. But if you have confidence in yourself, then I think this is the best challenge." Now, this is quite interesting when it comes to Donny van der Beek and when it comes to the player pressure and all that kind of stuff, because this is where I think we need to be a bit more rational. I know, and you could say being rational and social media and today's day and age don't really go hand in hand. I know. But I saw the other day, Donny had done his first training session as a Frankfurt player. And in this clip, and that's what it is, it's a clip. Donny does a couple of good touches, a couple of good flicks, pass the balls, give and go. You should have seen the reaction. You should have seen the reaction to, this is Man United. He's going to be great at Frankfurt. What have we done? We're holding players down. Donny's great. And you go, guys, it's a clip on social media that's maybe 30 seconds and it's in training. What are we doing here? What are we doing? I think we have to acknowledge that with certain players, a bit like Ten Hag is saying there, I think he's right. He's right with what he's saying there, whereby some players, it don't work out. Some players can handle the pressure of playing for Man United. Some people can handle playing, in the Premier League consistently. Some people can't. And Donny van der Beek isn't a bad player. People get into the Donny van der Gender Owen. You just hate Donny van der Beek. No, but I think it becomes pretty obvious, when you see him play in the Premier League and you see him play for Manchester United, wasn't suited to him. It wasn't. The Premier League, the robust physical style wasn't suited to him. Now, you could argue about things, whether they were fair or not, about a run of games, a run of starts. He was doomed from the get-go at Manchester United because he was a player that the coach at the time didn't want. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got given Donny van der Beek, essentially. And this goes back to, I've said this so many times, everything circles back to recruitment. And everything circles back to how badly Manchester United are run. Because Donny van der Beek's a prime example of that, of someone that wasn't in United's plans, wasn't really on the manager's radar. We just signed Bruno Fernandes only a few months earlier at that point. What was that, 2020? So we'd signed him in the January of that year. And, we bring him in and, it's like, where is he a 10? Is he an 8? Is he a 6? We still don't know. All that kind of stuff, right? We still don't know. And he was just never part of the plan. So we never got a run of games. He was never really factored in. And then when he did play a run of games, he struggled. He struggled with the physicality, or he struggled to do anything. So many times we would say, Donny, he played, but, he just ghosted through the game and didn't really do all that much. And as Ten Hag mentions, it's one thing, it's tough playing in the Premier League, and then it's another thing, it's tough playing for Man United. I mean, that Frankfurt clip is the perfect example of that, of just the next level of scrutiny. We, focus so much on things that don't matter. A 25, 30-second clip of training. I mean, we did it the other day, didn't we, with Ahmad and Anthony? Remember, was that before the Forest game, I think it was? It was over the Christmas period. And there was that clip of, in training, Ahmad goes past a player with ease and Anthony struggles. That was like a debatable point for 2 days. It was, and it's traded, and it doesn't really matter, but that's what we do. And some people can handle that, some people can't. And like I said, it circles back to recruitment, because if you did your due diligence, if you really scouted the player, if you really did like a player profile and a personality profile of the player, you would go, good technical ability, but can he sort of manage this pressure? Can he manage this environment? Can he manage this league? Because Donny went out on loan to Everton as well, and granted, was pretty much injured near enough straight away, but even then, didn't work out for him. So I hope for Donny's sake it really works out at Frankfurt. I really do. One, because I want to get a decent fee for him. But two, because, again, he was on, it felt like certainly the ascendancy. Then he came to Manchester United and it hasn't worked out. And it's really set back his career. Absolutely it has. And part of that is, not getting an opportunity. Part of that is injuries. But part of that, it wasn't the right fit for him. And as far as the original question, which was, are you concerned that this is going to, have players avoid joining Manchester United because of how the career of someone like a Donny van de Beek turned out? I'd be less concerned about, this player doesn't want to join us because look what happened to Donny. We're already seeing players avoid joining Manchester United, right? We've seen that. Big players. No disrespect to Donny van de Beek or anyone coming in the future. We've seen us miss out on like a Jude Bellingham because he realised, I could join United, but is it really my best pathway to success? And he was right not to join us. Look at his career now. Erling Haaland, we couldn't get that one over the line, could we? On a couple of different occasions. Prior to joining Dortmund and even afterwards going to Man City, couldn't get that one done right because it wasn't the best place for him to go. And that's just that's a fact of where we've put the position we've put ourselves in over the last however many years. Realistically, it's only the right place to go if your main incentive is, can I get a lot of money? Can I get a big contract? And I might actually not be reflective of my actual ability, this contract. Because if you want to go, to win trophies, or if you're a young player and you want to develop through the side, United ain't the best place to go. It hasn't been for a while. And what Man United need to get back to is proving to these players that we've got not only a manager, but also just the structure in place that you're going to have the best opportunity to develop and ultimately win things. Because the best of the best, that's where they really want to go. The best of the best want to go places where they're going to win trophies. The best of the best want to go to somewhere that's got the best facilities or the best manager or just something that is the best. Again, that's just how it works. So as far as, do you think players will avoid us because of what happened to Donny? I think they're doing that anyway. So it's about working back to that. And it goes back to, as I mentioned, recruitment and structure. That's what it is. You've just got to, we've got to put that in place, certainly. So I thought that was quite interesting when he's talking about the pressure. And then look, he's obviously talking from experience when it comes to the pressure as well, because I think, he's probably had an eye-opening when it comes to the pressure and the scrutiny that's United. I think sometimes managers might think they're aware, or they might think they understand the level of scrutiny that's there at Manchester United. But until you're sitting in that seat, until you're in those press conferences, until you're standing on that touchline at Old Trafford, I think nothing can probably prepare you for that, because we've seen it over the last 18 months or throughout Erik ten Hag's tenure. Some of the things that have been scrutinised, frankly, have been laughable. And they still are to this day. But that's the kind of pressure and scrutiny that you're dealing with. I saw someone just in the chat a second ago say about... Leaf says, if training doesn't matter, why training then? Didn't say training doesn't matter when it comes to that. What I'm saying doesn't matter is 30-second clips out of training. That's what doesn't matter. And that's what we get hyper-focused on. I mean, we posted, I remember, it was a clip of Bruno Fernandes. It was when, before the last Champions League game against Bayern Munich. And even that, this is a great example of it. Even that, people got so... twisted up and het up on the clips of that warm-up of the pressure game. They thought it was like a rondo game, and it kind of was, but it was more sort of a pressing exercise. And this is why, look, Man United are terrible. Look, this is why. And you go, that's not even training. That's for the media. Like, that's not even anything. But that's the level of scrutiny that Manchester United have. That's the kind of level that we as fans, and I'm guilty of this as well, but even the smallest sort of training exercise that is particularly for the cameras, it's not actually training, people go crazy about. That's the kind of level of scrutiny that you're dealing with. And some can manage that, some can handle that, some can't. They absolutely can't. And we've seen some of the garbage articles that are written about Manchester United players are just about nothing, even with Andre Onana, which I know people, you can ask KG, he's not sold on him, but they do articles about him dropping his car keys or anything as well. you know. So that's the level of scrutiny that they're dealing with, certainly. So when it comes to Donny, didn't work out. When it comes to Ten Hag, it was an interesting discussion last night on the Full View, certainly. And I'd recommend to everyone to go and watch it if you haven't already. It was a fun show. It was Flex, KG, myself, Minna, and Good Vibes John. Big up John Shim. And basically the big sort of, I guess, flashpoint in the show was that Flex has said, look, if we lose tonight against Wigan, that's it. I'm done. I'll be sort of Ten Hag out. That's it. And KG's on the other side of it, where he says, well, if we lose tonight, that's on the players. You know, you're telling me that the players aren't good enough to beat Wigan. They should beat Wigan. Any manager, it shouldn't even really matter who the manager is. If the players can't beat Wigan, then that's on them. And I get what both are saying in that aspect of it. But, for instance, I agree partially with what Flex is saying there when it's, look, ultimately, if you lose a football match, it is, you know, the buck stops with the manager. Like it's gonna fall on the manager. If we lose tonight, then you can't just completely write it off. It's not an Erik ten Hag, because it's gonna be both. Like it's an element of both. The manager picks the team and he coaches the side, so it's gonna fall on him. Now, don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean that it's like the players are completely, you know, they avoid any scrutiny or anything like that, because it's shambolic, you know. Then you could absolutely then put in an argument, oh yeah, the players have down-tooled, they've stopped playing for this manager, you know, they're not trying, they're not doing this, they're not doing that, whatever. But it's a combination of both, isn't it? Because that's how football works. And I understand what KG was saying, these players should be good enough to beat Wigan, all that, but football's a funny game. Football don't work like that. If it was always the team with the best players wins everything, then football would be very boring, particularly in the FA Cup. And we see that all the time in the FA Cup, don't we? It's not the team with the better players that wins. You know, that's why it's the FA Cup. That's why it's the Giant Killer Cup. So it's both. It's both. And even if we lost tonight, I wouldn't be like, get Erik ten Hag out tomorrow, because my sort of stance on it's been the same for a while now, which is everything needs to be in place first. And at the end of the season, those in charge, the CEO, the new sporting director, the new head of recruitment, Jim Ratcliffe, Sir Dave Brailsford, they all need to make an informed decision that everyone's completely on the same page with. Now, Erik ten Hag said he's had conversations with Ineos and they've been really productive, they've been really good. They might find themselves to be completely aligned and on the same page, and they might be like, Erik, we're going to go with you. And as long as everyone's on the same page and in the same direction, I can get behind that. You know, just call me crazy. I just want a plan. That's all I want. I just want a plan. I don't. We keep talking about recruitment. The recruitment department needs to be completely smashed down and fixed over again. I think Erik ten Hag needs to have the transfer reins pulled back from him, because it's not worked. And that's not saying it's completely his fault. Before people say, you know, it was John Murtough as well. Yes, it was John Murtough as well. Yes, it was. But John Murtough needs no transfer power. He needs to go as well. But when it comes back to it, going back to tonight, that's where I kind of sit on it, is that I don't think, as I always say, it's not black or white. It's shades of grey. You can't lose tonight and then be like, it's just not on the manager. It will be on the manager. You can't lose tonight and just be like, you know, it's not on the players. Absolutely, it would be on the players. And unfortunately as well, you know, and this is the weird sort of thing too, is I think people interpreted it as, so you're saying like it's acceptable that they would lose tonight, or, you know, that's, what's the best way to describe it? For instance, All Elite says it here. I was 100% with KG last night, as rare as that is. Those players should be beating a team 17th in League One without a manager tonight. If they lose, it will be all on them. Which, again, that I get that logic, but football doesn't work that way. It doesn't, you know, and we have to be sort of cognizant of that as well. Is that if we were to, and I think we'll win. I don't think it'll be pretty, but I think we'll win tonight. But if it was to lose, I don't think we can just be like, that's just completely on the players. They're not trying. They're not doing anything, because again, football, it just doesn't really work like that. You know, If you lose, just in general, and if you lose a match, your manager's going to get pressure, the manager's going to get scrutiny, and the team that the manager picks is going to get scrutiny as well. And absolutely, this group Erik ten Hag shouldn't have to do anything to win the game tonight. But that's football. That's how football works. For instance, a great example, we were saying that in the preview, we said that it's a wild stat, like Wigan have won all of the, 5 FA Cup ties they've played on a Monday or something ridiculous. And the last game they played on a Monday in the FA Cup was against Man City back in 2018, which they won. Now, they were in the Championship at the side, but they still weren't a great team by any stretch of the imagination. And that was City, I think, Centurion season, right? So my point being is that can happen in football. It's not necessarily about, it doesn't matter, you should just be beating them, because obviously those players should be good enough to beat them. But at the same time, there's just no way in my mind that could happen tonight, and you go, it's not. Don't worry, the manager gets a pass from that. He can't. He can't. He can't get a pass to that if that happens tonight. Now, that's not me saying, get rid of him. That's just saying that we have to be fair. We have to be fair when it comes to that. In my opinion, certainly. Some people are like, no, it's completely just on the players. And look, a lot of it will be on the players, but there's no way the manager doesn't get an element of blame if you go out of the FA Cup in the third round. I mean, it's kind of a wild sentence to say, but if you go out in the FA Cup in the third round against a League One side, the manager's under pressure, right? That's surely that's how it works. Ray says, come on, Owen. If we don't beat Wigan, those players want the manager to get sacked. I'm calling them out. Wigan is 17th in the league. No hiding from me. Those players must show up. And I totally agree. I totally agree with you. And again, this is why I think it gets back into the misinterpretation. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying the players get a pass. I've said get rid of everyone. What I am saying is, what you can't do, in my opinion, is if that was to happen tonight, you absolutely call out the players. This player's not trying. They're all not trying. They're throwing the manager under the bus. I totally get all of that. But we also can't be like, yeah, but don't worry, Eric, it's all fine. You did what you can do. Because if the manager's doing the best that he can do, then you should beat Wigan. Everyone should. Everyone gets criticised. Everyone gets criticised if you lose against Wigan and go out the FA Cup in the third round against the League One side. Everyone. Nobody gets a pass at all. CH says, Owen, you're admitting it would be a freak result if Wigan won, so how can you be more inclined to blame the manager instead of the players who have been delivering? This is my point entirely. I'm not saying that it's just on the manager or the manager gets more of the blame. I'm saying everyone gets the blame. What I am saying is that you can't just be like one or the other. It's not black and white. That's my opinion on it. Is that it's not just like if we went out tonight and the focus is just solely on, the players were completely rubbish, which they would be, and Erik ten Hag doesn't get any blame at all, then that is wild. Everyone should get blamed for that. Everyone. In my opinion, which I know people will disagree with and all that kind of stuff. And Compost says just changing the manager won't fix nothing. Again, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. It's everyone needs to go, and it's funny when you say that. Is that when I say everyone needs to go, people are like, you can't get rid of 25 players immediately. I've said time and time again. The best thing for Man United need to do when it comes to the manager and all that kind of stuff is just, even if we do go out tonight, all that kind of stuff, which I think we'll go through, is put the structure in place first and make an informed decision at the end of the season. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to do. Get the CEO, sporting director, head of recruitment, everyone in place, and at the end of the season, they make the decision, right, we sticking with Eric or we not sticking with Eric, and whatever direction they go in, they stick with that and they see that through. Oh, and also, they look at those players, the majority of them go, they're rubbish, their contracts are too high, we're getting rid of as many as we can, feasibly, and we are going to have sort of a systemic, let's get these players out and bring new players in. That will take a little bit longer. So it's not just one thing. We hyper-focus so often on just one thing. It's just this. It's just the manager. It's just these players. It's just this. It's just that. It's a combination of everything. Manchester United as an institution is so many single points of failure. That's what it is. You know, and you have to build it first before you can make any of these big calls, in my opinion. But yes, there you go. Where are we at when it comes to likes at the moment? We're currently at 808 people watching. We've got 111 likes. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well. Bottom right-hand corner too. As Tabaslaw says, yes, if you haven't already, click the like button too. What else are people saying in the chat? Paul Lucas says everything needs to be fixed as well. We've got here, out of 2 cups, league's already done. If there was anyone else that's sacked, but Ten Hag isn't, still don't see patterns of play. So look, it's very polarizing in the chat as well. It's very polarizing in the chat. But again, just that's kind of sort of my feeling on it, is more so that if the worst were to happen tonight, which I don't think it will, but if the worst were to happen, then I think that everyone shoulders a share of the blame, because that's how football works, realistically. But there you go. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about Jadon Sancho and the latest about his loan exit from the club too. Fabrizio Romano has posted the following this morning, saying Borussia Dortmund are increasingly confident to seal the Jadon Sancho deal this week. Talks are progressing well. Sancho is ready to travel as soon as he receives the green light from Manchester United. Now, as has been reported previously, there's no option to buy or anything like that for Sancho, primarily because United / Ineos are they want to get the best or the most money out of this they possibly can, which is basically, if right now, if we were to try and if we put an option on Jadon Sancho right now, if we put an option on him, it wouldn't be that much. The guy hasn't played since August. In addition to that, in his 2 years at Manchester United, he's done, oh jeez, Louise, oh jeez. Nubian just knows how to sort of, look at this, the redness. Whenever it's the red, whenever you just see the red, you go, oh my God, it's Nubian Pharaoh. My God. And also as well, whenever I see just the Pharaoh picture as well, I go, it's always just reds. It's always just reds. Nubian Pharaoh. Big up to you. Appreciate this. But Nubian Pharaoh, minority owner of United View. Going to start those scandalous rumours. Says, Owen, could the FA Cup be the saviour of Ten Hag as it was for Sir Alex Ferguson? I hope so. I believe in Eric Ten Hag. Well, look, certainly if he was to win the FA Cup this season, I think that would absolutely buy him some time, wouldn't it? Another trophy, two trophies in 2 years. Look at Mikel Arteta. I mean, they're still talking about his FA Cup win to this day. And and they're out of it already again, which is funny because, you look at a lot of people, to be honest. You look at a lot of some Arsenal fans at the moment, they're starting to turn, aren't they? And I was funny last night too, because we started the show by sort of taking the mick out of Arsenal and them going out. And I've, like most people, to be honest, watched I watched the AFTV last night, relax. I thought, okay, I'm gonna watch Lee Judges. He was actually surprisingly calm. Lee Judges outside the Emirates, sort of saying he felt that they played very well, just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. But Robbie, yeah, I saw Robbie's fan cam. Robbie's been spending too much time around Ty, but because the level, you want to talk about United fans being in denial. Robbie was saying to Cecil that Liverpool didn't have a weakened side, that Arsenal had players missing too, and Liverpool had a good side out, and and it's not a crisis. They've won 1 game in 7. Put it this way, yeah. If Man United, this goes back to like the pressure stuff. If Man United had won 1 game, I mean, what is even our record at the moment? I don't know what it is in the last 7 games. If someone can let me know. But I mean, 1 win in 7, and they scored like 1 goal. That's basically what we had, wasn't it? And they're like, oh no, it's not any crisis. You kidding me? You kidding? So I enjoyed that immensely. And last night on the Full View, we were sort of taking the mick out of the Arsenal fans and all that. And then you get the comments, don't you, when they say, Oh, you're celebrating a Liverpool win. Is that what you're doing? No, just having fun. Just having fun because Arsenal should have won that game. And Arsenal fans are very, very loud. Arsenal fans are very... If you'd have listened to them, this is their season. They're winning everything this season. They're winning the league. They're winning the FA Cup. And it's kind of all collapsing for them very quickly. But yeah, I very much enjoyed Robbie's fan cam last night because no, there's some good players out. Robbie, they're missing their best players. Mo Salah's not playing. Virgil van Dijk's not playing. Like, their best players were not playing last night. And you couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. And they won 2-0, on your own patch. They did a number on you, completely did a number on you. And I even saw Lee Judge, that's the worst, one of the worst Liverpool sides I've seen in a long time. Well, that worst Liverpool side's top of the league and they knocked you out of the FA Cup, mate. So I don't know about that. But and this is something I do agree with KG with. They're like, I can't give the banter out because you're just as in the mud and you might go out the FA Cup tonight. Yes, we might. But when you got that chance, when you got that day, you got to go for it. You absolutely have to go for it. But as far as answering your question, Nubian Pharaoh, if Erik ten Hag was to win the FA Cup, absolutely would buy him time. And look, you never know with cup competitions. You can get a good run. This is the thing. This is the thing that people always forget too. The best team, you don't have to be the best team or play the best football to win a cup competition. That's the beauty of it. It's not always the best side. It's not always the team that plays the best stuff. This is about a team that wins. So that's what I didn't get as well with some of the Arsenal fans yesterday. Oh, we played better and we played the better stuff and we should have scored. It doesn't matter. That's not how cup competitions are remembered. It's just about who wins. In the league, you probably have to pay some that play, some of the best stuff and be the most consistent. Not in a cup competition at all. You just got to win, because if you play badly but you still knock that team out, it doesn't matter. So, when it comes to United, maybe we can get a decent draw. But as we're playing right now, I don't know if that's possible for us to win the FA Cup. But yeah, hey, you never know. So yes, when it comes to Jadon Sancho, that's the latest when it comes to him, is that we'll probably get Here We Go this week, won't we, with Sancho. And I was talking about the buy option. Is the report was the other day, basically United and Ineos, they don't want to include a buy option right now, and that got interpreted as, Jadon Sancho's coming back. Sancho's back. He's outlasting Ten Hag, and they're all gonna see he's gonna prove everyone wrong. Blah blah blah. In reality, it's just being smart. It's just saying if we were to put a buy option now, what would it be? What's Jadon Sancho's value at the moment? It's not anywhere near what it should be or what it could be, certainly. Because he hasn't played since August and he's not played very well for about 2 years. His whole tenure at Manchester United's been a bust, let's be honest. So if we could put a buy option there now and it'd be really low, and if he has a good 6 months at Dortmund, we're like, damn, that's turned into a bargain for them. The smart thing to do is say, no buy option. No buy option at the moment. If he does well there at Dortmund, suddenly his value goes up, and then there's other clubs around Europe that can go in for him in the summer. And we can actually get a half-decent return. We're not going to get the money we paid for him, I don't think, but we can get close to if he has a good 6 months. So that's the smart thing to do. That's the smart thing to do for United. So I still don't think he's got much of a future at United, but yeah, no buy option or anything like that, and they're going to reassess it come the summer as well. Let's move on. Let's talk about Bayern. Yes. Let's talk goalkeepers. One of my favourite things to do, certainly. So Erik ten Hag, in this embargoed part of his press conference, was asked about possible reports claiming that he had less confidence in Altay Bayern. Of course, we know there's reports about Andre Onana and United and Cameroon and the talks, negotiations and the compromise so he can play in the game against Spurs at the weekend. Of course, we know he's going to be playing tonight. Imagine Bayern does play tonight as well, actually. Onana's going to play. But so lots of people have said it's very strange. it's very weird, all of this, because why would you get a backup goalkeeper and then you've got really no interest in sort of playing him? So Ten Hag was asked about those reports you might have, less than confidence in the goalkeeper he signed this summer. And Ten Hag had to say the following. He said, "We are totally happy and we constructed this group of goalkeepers because we are comfortable with this and we have that confidence in them both. They are both very good goalkeepers." And that's one of those situations where you go, Eric's in a press conference, so he's got to say what he's got to say. And I'm not saying that Bayindir is, great or anything like that. Look, ultimately, we don't know. Some people that watched him in Turkey or some people that have watched him more regularly, they say, look, he's not all that. So I don't know why you guys are going on that much about it. For me, it's not so much about he's this sort of great understudy that's not got a chance, because I don't believe truly that he is. My bigger sort of issue with it all is that it's just, again, really bad planning. It just seems like really bad recruitment, and why bother? Why bother with it all? Why? Because again, I'm kind of almost at a loss for words, because that's just yet another mess involved in all of it, realistically, isn't it? So what were the conversations when Bayindir came in? You're going to play in cup matches? Or was it explicitly said to him, look, Andre's the number one. Even in the cup matches, he's going to play all of these games unless he's injured, where, that's the only time you're going to get in? Or was it said to Bayindir, you're going to play the cup matches? If I was Bayindir and I've come in knowing, because we all said, right, didn't we? When Bayindir came in, we went, well, he's going to play in January at some point because Onana's going to go to AFCON. And that was kind of sort of widely known and assumed. And then for it to be like, actually, he is going to play in AFCON, but, he's still going to play in the Premier League games. I'd be like, what? What? Where's my chance? Where's my opportunity? That's what I thought it was going to be. And then I would sort of quickly realise, wow, am I comfortable being that number two that just sits on the bench, or do I actually want to play? Because if I actually want to play, then I've probably got to leave. But if I'm comfortable just being that backup, and some goalkeepers are. Some keepers are just very happy to sit on the bench, not get involved that much, support their teammates, and just be good around the squad. Maybe that's what Bayindir is. But it's just a really messy and awkward situation. All of the above when it comes to Bayindir not being involved, Onana going to AFCON but still playing the games. Why wasn't that sort of figured out way ahead of the time? Why are they still talking with Cameroon now? Is it because we're out of those competitions? Maybe that's part of it, because maybe the assumption might have been previously that Onana would have been missing more games because Man United had assumed they were going to be in the latter stages of other competitions. Therefore, we'd have been involved in the Carabao Cup at the moment. We'd have been involved in these other competitions. So, Onana would have missed more games. But because we've had a poor season and there's a possibility for Onana to miss 0 games, maybe that's what they're trying to do. I don't know. The point is that it's just a mess. That whole situation is just a mess. And obviously, Eric can say, they're both very good goalkeepers. We have confidence in them both. If you had confidence in Bayindir, he'd play. If he had confidence in Bayindir, he'd play today and he'd play against Spurs. And he's not going to play in either. And I think that says a lot. We always say that words are just that. They're just words. What really tells the truth is your team selections and who you pick. And he's not picking Bayindir. And as I said, I don't want to turn it into, Bayindir's this amazing goalkeeper. Why is he not getting a chance? Because we do this so much with players that are on the bench. This guy's amazing. Why is he not playing? And then he plays and we go, hey, he's not that great. He's just about average. It's more of a case of where is the planning? Where is the foresight? If he wasn't an adequate backup, why did we get him? Why didn't we go for someone else? That's what we should have done. And Man United, to be honest, had it good for so many years, didn't we? We had the best backup, which was Romero. It was the ideal. Put him in for any game. Sometimes he was better than David De Gea, to be honest with you, right? We won a Europa League with Romero in goal. But ultimately what it comes down to is, I think it's a lack of faith in Bayindir. Maybe just Ten Hag also thinks, well, if I can keep up as much continuity as I can, I'm going to go with that. But it's just a very, very messy situation, certainly, isn't it? So Yes, don't expect Bayern Deer to play tonight or against Spurs either. We've got nearly 1,000 people watching. How many likes are we currently at the moment? 170. Let's see if we can get to 200. Click the like button if you haven't already. We've got a super chat here from Aminor. Says, Owen, can you get Ajax on UV for his view on Erik ten Hag now? We certainly can. We'll see what the availability is of Ajax. It'll be interesting to know what he thinks. I mean, Ajax fans, my goodness me, they've been through the ringer, haven't they? With everything that's happened to them this season. I mean, I think they've got a bit of stability now, but I saw they went out of they go out of a cup to an amateur side. I mean, been a rough one for them, certainly, hasn't it? Yes, been a very bad. I'm surprised they still talk to us with everything that we've done, taking their manager, players. But to be fair, we give them a lot of money for it as well. And but that Ajax, it's just funny, isn't it? You know, the way the sort of football ecosystem works, because that Ajax side in 2018 just got ripped apart, didn't it? I mean, the vultures around Europe fully came in and just picked that corpse apart, didn't they? Boom, 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 boom. And United played their part in it as well. But, wow, yeah, that's Ajax has had a crazy season, certainly. Let's move on. Let's talk about Casemiro and Lisandro Martinez. A bit of an injury update on them and when we could expect them back. Erik ten Hag was asked about them both in his press conference. He said the following. He said, they are a long time back on the grass already, but now they have returned to team training, not fully, but partial. And now they have to make the next steps. That, of course, takes some days, I think even weeks, which is a bit of an interesting one, actually, because I think there was a bit of an assumption, and I hold myself involved in this as well, that possibly they could be back for the Spurs game. But if you take what Erik ten Hag is saying there, he maybe suggests it could be a little bit even longer than that, because as he says, they have been out on the grass for a while, but that's during the sort of individual training before they get back into full team training. But he's almost suggesting there that, yes, they're in team training, but they're not fully in first team training yet, only at partial points, and now they have to get to the point where they're back in full team training, and that could take some time. He's saying even weeks. So I was always hoping that, of course, they're not going to be involved today against Wigan, but I was hoping that possibly they could be involved for the Spurs game on Sunday. But with what Erik ten Hag's saying there, that might be a bit tight, to be honest with you. And this was something that I brought up before, is that particularly with the Lisandro Martinez one, rather, he's been out of action for so long, like such a long time. And even to the point, though, those games that he played earlier on in the season, I don't even almost count them because he wasn't back. That wasn't Lisandro Martinez. That was Lisandro Martinez, clearly with a foot problem that I mentioned at the time. You could just tell by watching him play for like 5 minutes, there was something considerably wrong with him and his foot. And my only hope is now is that we get the Leacher back that we had last season and those foot issues are done, because he's missed so much time. It's like 9 months since he had that, since he got his foot stuck in the ground against Sevilla at Old Trafford, and a couple of surgeries since then, sort of a false comeback. It's been a long time. So he might not be ready for that Spurs game. It might be a case of him being on the bench or something like that. We're going to have to build him up. Casemiro, of course, he hasn't been out for as long as Lisandro Martinez, but he's been out for a while. So it's going to be a case of, is he ready to come back in and go from the start, or is he going to have to start on the bench too? So I was maybe leaning into maybe one of them starting against Spurs, but now looking at what Ten Hag is saying there, they might not even be in the squad, to be honest. They might not even be ready for that, because he's saying they're not fully, or at least as of Thursday, because this was when the press conference was, it was on Thursday, suggesting that they're not even in sort of full first team training, only partial first team training at the moment. So it's going to be interesting to see certainly how quickly they can get back to full first team training. And I suppose there is going to have to be an element of patience to make sure that they come back, and particularly for Martinez, that he comes back and we don't rush him and we don't re-injure him or anything like that, because we can't have any more time, certainly, that he's out of action. So, yes, they're not going to be involved tonight, possibly against Spurs, but maybe even that might be a little bit too soon as well. And also, I do want to talk about Anthony Martial. Yes, I want to talk about Anthony Martial because there's been so much report and debate surrounding him, his future, and all that kind of stuff. And yes, so this comes from Samuel Lutkers from the Manchester Evening News, who are saying that Manchester United are still waiting for an approach for Anthony Martial. There was no offer from Fenerbahce, contrary to speculation in Turkey. That basically came from a report that was talking about there had been this approach, and United were going to sell him. And it came from a Turkish outlet, and as social media does, it kind of just runs, rampant. And it was, Martial's definitely going, and it was quite sort of, I don't know, not super, super strong. But look, if Manchester United can get an offer for Anthony Martial in January, they will take it. Anthony Martial, as you can see on the screen right there, his contract expires at the end of the season. Martial is expected to leave United, despite those sort of social media chatter and reports that United were going to possibly offer him a new contract and this, that, and the other. That's just very, very unlikely. There's certainly the word that we have is that Anthony Martial is very unlikely to be offered a new Man United contract. They're certainly not interested in triggering his contract on the existing terms or anything like that. If United do get an offer in January, most likely they're going to take it. If not, he's going to be released at the end of the season. That's just what it is. That's just the case. Now, I did want to talk about Martial because Minna brought it up on the Full View yesterday, and I think it's a fair argument to a point. That's why I wanted to bring it up because Minna was talking about sort of the sort of hyper-focused nature on Martial from certainly the media. And you've seen this in the last sort of week or so. I've seen some really sort of nonsense takes of, is Martial one of the biggest flops in Manchester United history? And you sort of go, well, I think that's quite reactionary. Anthony Martial isn't one of the biggest flops in United history. During his tenure at United, when did we sign him? 2015? So he's been at the club, 8 years? 9 years? He's. I mean, I wish I had the soundboard. He's done okay. He scored goals, but has he lived up to expectations? No, he hasn't, because this is a guy that had a Ballon d'Or clause. I think we thought we were signing, he was compared to Thierry Henry, wasn't he? We were signing this wide player that was going to transition into a forward, and he was going to be this sensational superstar, and it hasn't worked out. Now, maybe that's an oversimplification of things. Why hasn't it worked out? Well, he's sort of been shunted around to lots of different positions. He's picked up injuries, but ultimately it hasn't worked out. Like I said, I think the talk about, is he one of Man United's biggest flops or anything like that? No, that's not fair. But that's also, on the other hand, not to suggest that he shouldn't leave. Manchester United still need to get rid of Anthony Martial. The guy hasn't completed a football match, 90 minutes, in like 3 years. He's a good player, and when he has played, we've seen glimpses and we've seen goals. Last season was a madness from Anthony Martial. I mean, when you really take a step back and sort of recall last season from his perspective, it was nuts, really, because he still scored goals, but he was never available, and it almost, and you don't want to laugh, but it did become laughable at certain points where he would be back for, a couple of games, and then he'd be injured again for like 6 weeks. And you wouldn't even know what it is eventually. It was like, Martial's injured. With what? When? When did that happen? I mean, he missed the FA Cup final, didn't he? That last game against Fulham at home. He's just seen holding his hamstring when Ten Hag gave him the speech. And it's like, hey, Martial, he's out of the final. And then he missed all of pre-season. And he sort of came back towards the start of the season. We were like, where has he been? What's happened with Anthony Martial? So when a player's having those kind of injury problems like he has been, and that wasn't even like really a fluke thing with Martial last season, it's been like that for a few years. He went to Sevilla, he had a terrible time at Sevilla, and injuries as well with Sevilla, and it's just time really to sort of cut bait and just sort of go, okay, his time at United has run its course. It has. And that's not to do revisionist history and be like he's never offered anything or all that, because, again, that's not fair. Martial has offered things at different points during, was it the pandemic or just before? When he had that season, he scored a lot of goals. And when he came in initially, he was on fire. But it's not enough. It's not enough over, 9 years or close to a decade. It's not enough. And on 250k a week for someone that hasn't completed 90 minutes in 3 years, that's inexcusable. and you can't make any kind of argument up for why United should keep him in that case. You just can't. So Martial, his time's coming to an end, as it should. But it's not to say that, and this is where I do agree with Minna, is that you do see those sort of nonsense articles, or you see those nonsense bits of analysis on the TV or whatever, where they just focus on Martial. And what's he doing, blah, blah, blah. Martial and the current situation is just a symptom of Manchester United's bigger problems, which is, here's a guy that for the last 3 years has had these injury problems, and we haven't been able to shift him. Why haven't we been able to shift him? He's on a contract for 250k a week. He shouldn't be on a contract for 250k a week, and we can't get rid of him because of that. And we're stuck with him, and he can dig his heels into the sand and go, well, why would I leave? Well, I'm not going to go anywhere else. I'm not going to get that money anywhere else. So I'm just going to stick here because I know this is the best contract I'm going to get. And that's on United. That's on United. That's on the higher ups. That's on them for giving out that contract that wasn't fit for value. That's on Man United for not being good enough when it comes to recruitment over the last however many years to be able to sell Anthony Martial. That's on Man United. And with Martial, like I said, time coming to an end, and as it should. Absolutely as it should. Do I think he'll go in January? I'd be very surprised, honestly. Even when that report came out the other day, like I said, from Turkey, I thought, I don't know how much I'd buy that. Because if you are Martial, and this is when sort of the human side, I suppose, comes into it a little bit, he must know that whatever his next move is, come the summer, when he becomes a free agent in the summer, he is not getting 250k a week. That is not happening. No, not even close is he getting that. So he might think, look, and we don't know what his sort of fitness record is right now at the moment, but he might be like, look, I got to get that rest of that money. I'm going to sit here for 6 months and try and get myself back into half decent shape. And then come the summer, I'll sign somewhere. It will be a lot less money, but it is what it is because I shouldn't be on this amount of money anyway, 250k. And I see that there are still the sort of real staunch Martial supporters, and and this isn't really a Martial thing. This is kind of a wider thing because I've never got this anyway. It reminds me of like there used to be sort of staunch like Jack Wilshere supporters, or I'm trying to think of another player that would be like this. There's quite a few where they have this terrible injury record. And there are still people that will just, till the end, believe in, great player, keep him. We can get the best out of him. He just needs to get his fitness right. And eventually, you have to just realize, I don't think these fitness issues are going to get resolved. They're just getting worse, or they're just the same. And definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and expecting different results. And that's what it is with Martial. If you think that, this is the time he's going to come back and he's going to get fit and he's not going to have any injury problems, it's just not. It's not. And United need to be ruthless and United need to move on. And Martial is an example of that. But to highlight him as he's just one of the biggest flops ever at United, or it's just Martial's the problem. No, there's lots of problems. But one of the things that absolutely needs to be addressed is Martial needs to go in the summer, and it frees up a lot of money. 250k a week, that's a lot of money for Man United. And when it comes to FFP and it comes to spending in the summer and bringing players in, having that extra 250k a week, that'll be very beneficial to United, certainly. So Martial, latest is that there's been no offer from Turkey, that United are still sort of waiting for an approach. It'll be interesting to know as well, actually, if any clubs are just talking to Martial now anyway about a pre-contract. Because of course he can. He can talk to clubs in Europe or just around the world about a possible pre-contract. So that's why I kind of go, I don't expect him to leave in January, because why would that happen? I don't know. Anyway, guys, that's the transfer view for you this morning. Oh, Edie says here, a bit like Jones. Jones is another example of that. Just when he gets back in, that's what it will be. I remember Jack Wilshere was a great example. People used to talk about him so often, even for England, or when you see Arsenal fans, hey, get back in. You go, eventually, you just have to kind of sort of acknowledge the truth that they're not going to pick up that fitness. It's just not going to happen. I think I'm caught up when it comes to super chats as well. Indeed, I am. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Where are we at in terms of the likes? We've still got nearly 1,000 people watching. We've got 206 likes. We can go higher. I believe. As I mentioned, this evening, Match View is going to be live. Kickoff's 8:15. Oh, honestly, the kickoffs times and the television coverage for the FA Cup, by the way, has just been terrible. I've seen a lot of complaints about that. Some of the games picked for television for the FA Cup were just madness. And some of those bad games, and they missed some really good games. It felt like it was the Premier League FA Cup. I don't know about you, but when I'm watching the other FA Cup games, I want to see like a non-league. I want to see a League Two side or something like that. That's the romance of the FA Cup, isn't it? So, yeah, some of the games that were selected for television were awful. But we are going to be live 7:45 tonight, 30 minutes before kickoff. It's an 8:15 kickoff. Flex, KG, and myself, so be sure to join us then. I'm sure you'll probably hear some kind of road trip or something like that before then. And here's hoping we're through to the fourth round of the FA Cup. Have a good day. I'll speak to you again very soon. I'm out of here. Peace.